No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of Friday Night Smackdown for January 12th, 2024. We are on the road to the Royal Rumble, which is now just over 2 weeks away. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live or on demand. Much love and appreciation to you all. Let's get to the show. We opened up with what was supposed to be Cameron Grimes versus Grayson Waller. But Grimy was attacked from behind by Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. Security tried to help. They got attacked as well. They got into the ring. The Bloodline was hijacking the segment. Waller and Austin Theory, who was out there at ringside with his buddy, they bounced. They left the ring. They threw up the one. They acknowledged the Bloodline. And that led to a promo with Paul Heyman and the Bloodline. Talked about how the real bad guy is Nick Aldis for booking a fatal four-way match where Roman Reigns could very well lose his championship without being pinned. Nick Aldis was there, the SmackDown general manager, and he responded by putting Jimmy and Solo and Roman Reigns in a six-man tag team match against Randy Orton, LA Knight, and AJ Styles. Now, Heyman responded to Aldis by saying that Reigns was not there in Lincoln, Nebraska. Aldis was basically like, well, you better find a partner by the end of the night or it's going to be a 2-on-3 handicapped match. Nice little opening segment here to set up the main event and tease the idea that the Bloodline will have to find a partner for the end of the show. Nick Aldis looking like a very determined general manager to enforce the law. Backstage, we had Paul Heyman assuring Jimmy and Solo that he'll find somebody. Told them not to worry. Solo said he never worries. We had our first match of the evening, which was LWO, Joaquin, Wilde, and Cruz del Toro against Angel and Humberto, with Santos Escobar out there on commentary. Early momentum for the LWO. They did some stereo dives, but then when the action got back into the ring, Angel was on the apron and he pulled down the rope. That sent Del Toro to the outside, and that led to Legado del Fantasma getting the upper hand for a while. But then after the commercial break, Joaquin Wilde got a hot tag, and he was hanging on because he was getting double teamed after a while. And then Del Toro was able to take out Humberto. Carrillo showed up, even though Santos had not interfered or anything. Carrillo showed up and attacked Santos. But then Angel Garza in the ring, he used the rope for leverage to pin Wilde. Angel and Humberto got the win here. It was a solid match. Pretty standard stuff here. Carrillo back in the mix. And speaking of Carrillo, we had a backstage segment where Paul Heyman was trying to recruit Carrillo, even presenting him with an apple. Carrillo took the apple, but said that he only wants to fight Santos Escobar and left. We also had a backstage segment with Carmelo Hayes, and it looked like maybe he was talking about entering the Royal Rumble when he was interrupted. He was with Nick Aldis, and he was interrupted by Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, and a match was set up between Carmelo and Theory for later on in the show. We had Logan Paul, who was in a pre-recorded interview, the United States champion, talking about his black eye after being punched by Kevin Owens. And he said that Kevin Owens' cast could be a liability. And he's threatening legal action. And he said if Owens is wearing the cast at the Royal Rumble, the match for the United States Championship will be canceled. We had another backstage segment, like a vignette type segment, where it was Butch and Tyler Bate. They were in some coffee shop, drinking coffee. Basically, Tyler Bate wanted them to keep going as a tag team, but Butch said he wanted to go their separate ways. And Tyler Bate said that they could show everyone what British strong style is all about, and then wanted Butch to ponder as to what his name was going to be when he got started in wrestling. And they ended the shot with Pete Dunne just looking out and thinking about his future. He did mention that the Brawling Brutes were no more. And this whole segment seemed to tease the idea that Pete Dunne, that name is coming back, and Butch will be no more. That's what I got out of this. Definitely a tease for Butch transitioning back to Pete Dunne, which, you know, I don't really think the name matters all that much at this point, but hey, I like Pete Dunne better than Butch. I mean, I always thought the Butch name was unnecessary, but after a while, I just got over it. So, hey, it's cool they're making him Pete Dunne again. I mean, definitely Butch is a better name than Dewdrop, and they got rid of that one. So there you go. We had Bayley versus Bianca Belair, and Damage Control was out there. This was a good match, but I have to say that I had trouble getting emotionally invested in this because we've seen these two go at it so many times on television, like for the past 3 years, whether it's on SmackDown or Raw. I'm just kind of overseeing Bianca Belair versus Bayley. Plus, with Damage Control out there, it's like I'm waiting for the finish. Like I know something's going to happen with them. And because of that, I was mentally checked out of this match, but it was a good match. They always have good matches. They have good chemistry. I like Bayley using Bianca's hair to try and get the advantage. Bayley is tying her hair up in the bottom rope, but Bayley got outsmarted. She outsmarted herself. Bianca was able to use her own hair and trip Bayley to get out of her predicament. And then Bayley countered the KOD and hit the big elbow. Bianca kicked out, and then Bayley tried to win with her feet on the ropes. Referee caught her, and then Bayley acted like she was hurt. And this was supposed to be a cue for Damage Control to interfere. But they did not. They did not help out Bayley. And then Bianca was able to pick up the win with the KOD. So they furthered this Bayley Damage Control split. And then backstage, Bayley was upset. She wanted to know what was going on, why they didn't help her. And Dakota Kai pulled her aside and said that they didn't want to risk a disqualification. And furthermore, they wanted Bayley to get the job done on her own. And Dakota said that there's still the Royal Rumble. Bayley still has a Royal Rumble to win. We had the Street Profits come into the ring with Bobby Lashley. I guess their name is officially the Pride, although they did not use this name on TV to my knowledge. I did not hear it, but Bobby Lashley has it in his Twitter/X bio. He kept it short. He said that Karrion Kross's new group is getting into a fight they cannot win. Lashley called out Kross's group And they were even looking around the ring to make sure there was no sneak attack. We had Paul Ellering show up on the stage, and he showed a video package with Karrion Kross. And they basically just revealed the name of the group. It's the dawn of a new era, and the group is called The Final Testament, which is a good name for a finisher. The only problem with the name, in my opinion, is that it just sounds too much like Judgment Day. You got the Judgment Day, the Final Testament. They're very similar. As far as the Pride goes, like, what are they, a couple of lions? Like, I get it, I suppose, but I feel like there were so many better names. Like, I saw people on social media coming up with some interesting names, like the Almighty Prophets, or anything I think would have been better than the Pride. I mean, this was a missed opportunity to call Cross's group the Hyenas or something like that. So yeah, it was basic stuff here, just introducing Cross's name and dragging this out a little bit. Then we had Pretty Deadly approaching Paul Heyman. They were interested in teaming up with the Bloodline, but Heyman made it clear that, well, they only need one guy. And that's when Pretty Deadly said, well, they actually had something else to do, and they left. Next up, we had Bobby Lashley being approached by Paul Heyman, and Heyman said maybe Lashley could take out his frustrations on Randy Orton, LA Knight, and AJ Styles. But Lashley said that he only wants to be in the ring with the Bloodline when Roman Reigns is on the other side of the ring in a one-on-one match. Lashley still wants his title opportunity. We then had Carmelo Hayes versus Austin Theory, and you had Grayson Waller out there. And it was a back and forth match here. Pretty good match with these guys. Carmelo did some of his signature moves, like the springboard clothesline, hit a face buster, but Theory kicked out. Grayson Waller was trying to distract Carmelo, but he kept his focus. And then both of them ended up on the top. And I think Theory was going for a Spanish fly, but both guys ended up landing very awkwardly on the mat. And the referee immediately went over to them. You could tell something was up here because Waller was on the outside. He was all excited and animated when this move got executed or attempted to be executed. And then as soon as the referee was checking on him, you could very quickly see Waller's demeanor change. And the referee did the X sign and called off the match. I mean, things happen, and I hope both guys are okay. It was very similar to what happened with Giovanni Vinci on Raw the other week, where they just abruptly stopped the match. And you know what? At the end of the day, you have to err on the side of caution, I think, rather than try to finish the match if the guys are legitimately hurt. So very unfortunate, and like I said, hoping that they're okay and it's nothing too serious. Maybe they just bonked heads and momentarily just lost it, you know. But yeah, pretty scary. And you know, looking at it in slow motion, it definitely looked scary. So yeah, hoping for the best with those guys. You never want to see something like this where somebody gets legitimately hurt, but hats off to the referee for acting very quickly. Like he called it off pretty quickly, like within 10 seconds. We had another backstage segment with Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. Solo once again said he's not worried. And Jimmy Uso responded by saying he's also not worried. He also added no yeet, which is his catchphrase, I guess. We had our main event, Randy Orton, LA Knight, and AJ Styles versus Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. But Solo and Jimmy attacked Randy Orton during his entrance. Solo took out Randy with a Samoan spike, and that led to just a 2-on-2 match. Now, I'm not sure how many people had this issue. I don't think it was widespread. I think it was maybe only for people with YouTube TV or maybe a certain region of the country. But my feed got messed up during the main event. Like, I just heard echoing through the entire final match. And also I could hear like a Spanish commentator or somebody else talking over the regular feed, and the regular feed had echoing. So the audio was very messed up, at least for me. And I know it did not affect everybody, but I do think some people were having issues. If you were having issues, let me know what device you were watching it on. Like, were you using YouTube TV, or were you watching it on a different app or traditional cable? Let me know where you were watching it on, and also your region of the country. I'm just curious as to how widespread this was. Could have been it was just a regional thing like Michigan, so that's why I'm asking. Anyways, like, this match, you thought maybe it would be a can they coexist scenario, but you had AJ Styles and LA Knight able to work together. They were doing well, and it was your standard tag match where after a while Bloodline got the upper hand. They were working over Styles, and then Solo Sikoa pulled LA Knight off the apron so there could be no tag. LA Knight fought off Solo, got back on the apron, but then Styles hesitated a little bit, and then Knight got taken out of the equation again. At this point, Randy Orton returned. He came back. Styles was able to tag out to Orton. Orton came in, cleaned house, and then pinned Jimmy Uso with the RKO. You know, Jimmy Uso's just the punching bag at this point. If they're doing him versus Jay, like, I feel like they got to give Jimmy some wins here. Anyways, after the match, Solo Sikoa immediately attacked Orton, but then AJ Styles came in with the phenomenal forearm to Solo, BFT to Solo, RKO to Solo, and then Orton, Knight, and Styles all worked together. They took out Jimmy with the steel steps, and then they busted out the old Shield triple power bomb, putting Solo Sikoa through the announce table to wrap up the show. Based off of what I'm reading in the chat room, it was probably a regional thing in Michigan. Benjamin said he was watching it on Sling, but he was having the issue. So I'm thinking it was a regional issue. All in all, this was a solid SmackDown, but at the same time, I do feel like there was a lot of filler. It didn't feel like a particularly eventful SmackDown. I feel like if you missed this week's SmackDown, you didn't miss a whole lot. I did like the triple powerbomb angle. You know, they're trying to make it clear that Roman Reigns' title is in jeopardy, and now you got the challengers all kind of on the same page, so maybe they'll work together to take out Reigns. I get where they're going with it. I still don't think Reigns is losing the title, but you know, they're trying to make the most out of this. Although next week they're doing a contract signing, which, you know, I'm not a fan of whatsoever. So all in all, it was a decent SmackDown. I probably would go with a B-. It had its moments, but, you know, I felt like there was a good amount of filler on the show. So thank you guys for tuning in. Wasn't actually the best week, in my opinion, with Raw, SmackDown, and AEW. I mean, the shows were fine, but nothing too must see, especially after last week's shows. But hey, that's how it works. I suspect things will pick up as we get closer to the Rumble. And then, of course, when we get closer to Revolution, things will pick up in AEW. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate your viewership and support. As I always say, stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.